Summer break, huh? Not quite what most high schoolers imagine, at least not for Sheng Wang. Study camps, new schools, and enough pressure to make your head spin. Let's dive into the world of this transfer student as he tackles his first few days in a top-tier Chinese high school.
Intense is an understatement, but that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. This isn't just your typical high school drama.
Not even close. Right from chapter 1, it's like Sheng Wang's been thrown into the deep end, literally. New school, new curriculum, cutthroat competition, and he can't even find his classroom. Talk about a fish out of water moment.
It's the perfect setup, wouldn't you say? It immediately throws us into Sheng Wang's shoes, disoriented, a little overwhelmed, and completely out of his element.
And then there's Director Zhu, the administrator who welcomes Sheng Wang to the school. I have to say, Big Mouth is an interesting nickname.
It's more than just a nickname, though. It's a hint at Director Zhu's character. He's well-meaning, but he has a knack for saying exactly the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Which, of course, makes things even more awkward for Sheng Wang.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to Jiang Tian. What's the deal with this guy? Sleeping through morning announcements, he's practically an enigma wrapped in a mystery.
And that's precisely why the author introduces him so early on. Jiang Tian becomes this silent force, this benchmark against which Sheng Wang measures himself, even if subconsciously.
But then we get these glimpses of Jiang Tian's reactions, especially towards his father. There's a flicker of, well, something beneath that nonchalant facade.
It's a subtle, but it's there. Those small details, those cracks in his armor, are what make Jiang Tian such a compelling character. He's not just a one-dimensional genius. There's a complexity there, a hint of vulnerability that makes you want to know more.
And speaking of pressure, can we talk about this exam? First day of school and bam, 5 subjects. Tomorrow on material Sheng Wang has never even seen. I think I would have fainted.
Right. Talk about trial by fire. But that's the point, isn't it? This exam isn't just a plot device, it's a microcosm of the entire school system. It's about pressure, expectations, and the constant need to prove yourself.
Sheng Wang even considers calling his dad to rescue him. It's a small moment, but it reveals a lot about his character. He might act tough, but underneath it all, he's still a kid facing an impossible situation.
Exactly, and that's what makes his next move so interesting. Instead of panicking, he pulls out his phone.
Secret weapon time. He calls a friend for last year's exam and strategically targets the sections with the highest points.
He's not trying to learn everything, he's trying to game the system. And that strategy, that ability to think on his feet, is what makes Sheng Wang such a fascinating protagonist.
It's like he's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. He's adaptable, resourceful, and maybe, just maybe, he enjoys a good challenge. But even chess masters can't escape family drama, right?
Oh, you mean the small matter of Sheng Wang's father moving in with Jiang Tian's mother? Now, that's what I call awkward.
Let's talk about a plot twist. We knew this deep dive was going to be intense, but that revelation definitely raises the stakes.
Awkward might be an understatement. It's like the author threw a grenade into an already pressure cooker situation.
And we thought this was just going to be about acing exams. But seriously, how does Sheng Wang react to this news? He doesn't exactly fall apart, does he?
No, not at all. There's a sense of resignation about him, almost like he's come to expect the unexpected when it comes to his father. But you can tell there's a simmering resentment there, especially when he hears his father refer to the new living arrangement as a shared rental.
That line made me cringe. It's so impersonal, so devoid of any emotional weight. It speaks volumes about the father's, shall we say, lack of tact.
Absolutely. And it highlights the gulf between Sheng Wang's internal world and his outward demeanor. He might not say much, but you can feel the impact this change is having on him, especially when we consider the unspoken presence of his mother.
Right. It's like this underlying current of grief and loss that run through these chapters. Even though it's never directly addressed, you can feel its weight on Sheng Wang.
And it adds another layer to his resentment towards his father and Jiang Ao. Remember that small detail about Sheng Wang noticing the resemblance between Jiang Ao and his mother? It's a subtle but powerful connection that the author makes.
It's like he's not just adjusting to a new school and a new family dynamic, but also grappling with this resurfacing grief. No wonder he has that watching a slow-motion train wreck vibe about him. But speaking of train wrecks, can we get back to this exam? Because despite having zero preparation, Sheng Wang pulls off some pretty impressive scores.
That's putting it mildly. When those scores were revealed, I was floored. This is where we see Sheng Wang's strategic approach pay off. He might not have crammed every textbook, but he understood how to work the system.
He focused on the high-value targets, the patterns in past exams. It's actually a pretty smart strategy.
Absolutely. He's not just winging it, he's thinking strategically, analyzing the situation, and using the information he has to his advantage.
And let's be honest, those scores are pretty impressive. Physics, 62. Chemistry, 68. Math, a very respectable 83. And above average in Chinese and English without even trying. I'd say he's adapting pretty well to this whole pressure cooker environment.
Adapting and then some. He's exceeding expectations, even if no one else realizes it yet. And that brings us to another interesting point, Jiang Tian's reaction.
Oh, you mean Mr. Loof himself?
Ah.
What's he up to while Sheng Wang is busy acing exams?
Well, that's the thing. It's subtle, but we start to see a different side of Jiang Tian in these chapters.
You mean those small acts of kindness toward Sheng Wang, reminding him to grab his exam paper, correcting him about the teacher's name?
Exactly. They seem insignificant on the surface, but they hint at something more complex beneath Jiang Tian's icy exterior.
It's like he's not entirely immune to Sheng Wang's situation. Maybe there's hope for these two yet. But speaking of hope, let's talk about those small goals the teachers set for Sheng Wang after his first exam. Talk about underestimating your student.
Right. It's almost comical. They set these low expectations, completely oblivious to the fact that Sheng Wang has already surpassed them.
And the best part is, Sheng Wang doesn't let on that he knows. He plays along, accepts their small goal with a knowing smile. It's like he's in on a joke that no one else gets.
Which makes those final exam scores all the more satisfying. Talk about a mic drop moment.
Physics, 62. Chemistry, 68. Math, that impressive 83 again. And still above average in Chinese and English. He's not just passing, he's excelling.
And he's doing it all while maintaining this air of nonchalance. It's like he's watching a comedy unfold rather than actually living through it.
Which makes you wonder, is he just good at hiding his stress, or does he secretly enjoy proving everyone wrong?
It's a great question, and it speaks to the complexity of his character. But one thing's for sure, those scores change everything. Suddenly, Sheng Wang is no longer the clueless transfer student. He's a contender.
A dark horse in the making. And that final image of him calmly filling his water cup while everyone else is losing their minds. Pure gold.
It's a brilliant ending to these chapters. It leaves us wanting more, wondering what will happen next. How will this newfound success affect Sheng Wang? How will his classmates react? And what about Jiang Tian? Will those small acts of kindness develop into something more?
So many questions, and only more chapters to go. But before we dive into those, I want to take a moment to appreciate how the author handles a rather sensitive topic, the unspoken presence of Sheng Wang's deceased mother.
It's subtle, but it's there, weaving its way through the narrative, influencing Sheng Wang's thoughts, his interactions, his overall demeanor.
It adds a layer of depth and poignancy to his story. It's almost like we can feel her absence right alongside him.
Exactly. It's a testament to the author's skill, the way this unspoken grief permeates the narrative, shaping Sheng Wang's experiences without ever taking center stage.
It definitely adds a layer of complexity to his relationship with his father. I mean, let's be honest, their dynamic isn't exactly sunshine and roses.
To put it mildly. But again, there's a realism to their interactions. It's not just about painting the father as the bad guy. It's about portraying the awkward, often messy reality of family relationships.
Especially when you throw in a major life change and a whole lot of unspoken baggage.
Absolutely. But let's circle back to those exam results for a moment. Because those scores don't just impact Sheng Wang's academic standing, they shift the entire power dynamic.
Right. Suddenly he's not the clueless transfer student anymore. He's a contender.
And everyone around him is about to realize it. I'm particularly interested to see how this newfound success will affect his relationship with Jiang Tian.
Because let's face it, their dynamic is already complicated. You've got this undercurrent of rivalry, maybe even a touch of begrudging respect, and now you throw academic achievement into the mix. It's a recipe for some serious tension.
Oh, absolutely. But it also opens up some intriguing possibilities. Will those small acts of kindness from Jiang Tian evolve into something more? Or will they retreat further into themselves, create even more distance between them?
It's a classic push and pull.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling the author's going to keep us guessing for a while.
Oh, I certainly hope so. Because that's what makes this story so compelling. It's not just about the plot points. It's about the spaces in between, the unspoken emotions, the subtle shifts in power, the lingering questions that stay with us long after we've finished reading.
And on that note, I think we'll leave our listeners with this final thought. Pay attention. Pay attention to the details, the seemingly insignificant moments, the quiet exchanges. Because it's often in those subtle gestures, those glimpses beneath the surface, that we discover the true heart of a story.